I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife was cheating on me, but life has a way of kicking you in the teeth when you least expect it. Her name is Emily, and we've been married for about 5 years now. Things weren't perfect, but I always believed we had a good, stable relationship. She's pretty confident, a bit bitchy sometimes, but I figured that was just her personality. She's the type who can talk her way out of anything, and honestly, I've always been a little too trusting because of that. About 2 months ago, I started noticing small changes. Emily was more dismissive, seemed distracted, and would sometimes brush off my questions by saying she was busy or stressed. She also started working longer hours at her job. She's a marketing exec, so I figured it was just crunch time. But then I began noticing things that didn't add up. Her phone kept buzzing with texts, and she'd hide it when I entered the room. She'd slip away to the bathroom or outside, and I'd hear her whispering or giggling. Nothing concrete, just enough to tip me off that something was going on. One night I was home alone, and I decided to do a little digging. I always knew Emily was a bit of a liar. She's lied before about little things, excuses about her whereabouts, menial stuff. But this time I went a step further. I remembered that she mentioned she was having her air filters or decontamination done at home that week, something she'd scheduled months ago with that environmental decontamination guy, Mark. Honestly, I didn't think much of it at first. I thought it was just some routine cleaning. But then I started noticing strange things in our home security logs, small anomalies I never paid attention to before. Our security system logs all the activity, and I noticed extended procedures during times I wasn't home. Airlock usage was longer than usual, and the consistent pattern suggested someone was inside longer than necessary. I thought maybe it was just the cleaning crew or some maintenance, but I remembered Emily mentioning her appointment with Mark the week before. That's when I began to wonder if something was off. I checked the logs more carefully and found they showed her and Mark going through these extensive procedures, way more than the usual. Cleaning when I was out. The logs showed that during those times the procedures lasted almost double, and the airlock activity was locked in place for an unusually long period. So I did what I shouldn't have. I wired up a hidden camera in the living room, pointed at the front door and the hallway. It was a gamble. Part of me didn't want to believe my wife was cheating, but the evidence was stacking up. Sure enough, the next day I checked the footage, and there she was, Emily, sneaking into the house around midnight just as the log said and spending an hour with Mark inside. She looked different, more relaxed than usual. Her posture, her expression, she was into it. When I saw her kissing him on the cheek before she left, my stomach clenched tight. I felt this whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, disbelief. How could she do this? How long had it been going on? I was furious but also heartbroken. I had always trusted her, and now it felt like I'd been living with a stranger. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept racing, replaying everything I saw, questioning all those moments I thought were normal. It hit me hard that this wasn't just a mistake or a one-time thing. This was ongoing. It was her way of escaping, of cheating behind my back while pretending everything was fine. That's where I am right now, trying to figure out what to do next. The evidence is undeniable, and I realize that confronting her directly might just turn into a disaster. But I also know that I can't keep pretending I don't know. There's this part of me that's just so hurt, so betrayed, that I want to do something. Something that hits back, makes her feel the pain she's caused me. I've been planning for a while now. I want to get revenge, but I haven't decided exactly what yet. I just know that I can't let her get away with it. Not without consequences. So this is where I stand. Betrayed, angry, and hurt. I never thought I'd be the guy writing about this, but here I am. If anyone has advice, real advice, about how to handle a situation like this, I'd be grateful. Because right now, I'm just trying to breathe and figure out what the hell to do next. After discovering the truth, I spent the next few days in a fog. I couldn't believe how deeply I'd been played. Every little thing about Emily suddenly seemed suspicious. Her texts, her dismissiveness, even her excuse when I asked her about her long hours at work. I kept trying to tell myself it was just a misunderstanding, that maybe I was overreacting, but the footage was clear. She was sneaking around late at night, and her interactions with Mark weren't just professional, they were intimate. I also started noticing other things. Her phone would ring and she'd immediately shove it into her purse, trying to hide it. She'd dismiss my questions with a sharp, bitchy tone. "God, you're so paranoid," she'd snap, rolling her eyes. But I wasn't paranoid, this was proof. I had the evidence, and I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The worst part was that she had lied so effortlessly about everything. She'd come home, act like she'd been working late, and then I'd find her perfume somewhere she shouldn't have been, a lipstick stain on her collar I had never seen before. One night I decided to confront her. I was furious, but I also wanted to hear it from her, straight from her own mouth. I told her I knew about her affair, showed her the footage, the logs, everything. Her reaction was instant. She looked at me with this icy glare, then scoffed. "Oh, please, you're overreacting," she said, crossing her arms. "You're just jealous because I have a life and you don't. Mark's just my friend. We're not doing anything. You're crazy if you think otherwise." I couldn't believe the lies. She had a way of making it seem like I was the problem, like I was imagining things, but I was. That night I saw her desperation for the first time, and it only made me angrier. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she look at me with that contempt, knowing she was betraying everything we had? I felt like I was drowning in betrayal, and I knew I needed to do something, anything, to make her pay for this. The next few days were chaos inside my head. I felt this burning desire for revenge, but I also felt heartbreak. I kept asking myself why she did it, what I did wrong, but deep down I knew it wasn't about me. She was just a bitchy woman who liked to play her games. That realization, knowing she didn't respect me enough to stop, made me more determined than ever. I started planning how I was going to make her regret this mess. I decided to dig even deeper. I set up some listening devices around the house, just to hear what she was saying when I wasn't around. I wanted to catch her in the act, see if she was still lying or if she was trying to cover her tracks. It was a sneaky move, but I figured I had to be prepared for anything. I also started monitoring her bank accounts, her social media. I wanted to understand her mindset, what she was telling her friends, what kind of lies she was feeding the world. During one of these listening sessions, I overheard her talking to her best friend, Lisa. Their conversation chilled me to the bone. Emily was bragging about Mark, how hot he was, and how easy it was to get away with cheating on me. She said, "He's so good in bed, better than my stupid husband. It's just sex, and honestly, I don't think I want to go back to that boring life with him anymore." Hearing that made my blood boil. She was so open about it, like she didn't even care. That moment solidified my decision. I had to do something, and it had to be big. I didn't want to just confront her again. I wanted to make her feel what I felt: betrayed, humiliated, and powerless. I started planning my revenge. I thought about exposing her at her job, sending her boss the evidence, but I worried that would destroy her career. I also considered just walking away and leaving her to stew in her own lies. But part of me wanted her to feel the pain of what she'd done to me, especially in a way that she'd never forget. So I've come to a point where I'm just waiting for the right moment. I want her to think she's safe, to think I don't know anymore, and then I'll strike. I want her to realize that I am not the fool she thought I was. Whether that's exposing her, confronting her publicly, or simply making her realize she can't get away with this, I haven't decided exactly yet. But I know one thing: I won't let her cheat and lie and walk all over me without consequence. She's going to regret this. I swear she will. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that Emily isn't just a cheating wife, she's a manipulator. She's the kind of woman who can spin stories so well that even her closest friends probably believe her lies. That's what makes this so frustrating. I kept doubting myself. Was I imagining things? Was I overreacting? But the evidence was too concrete, and her attitude only confirmed what I already suspected. She's been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. I started gathering more proof. I sifted through her texts, her social media, her emails, anything that could tell me more about her relationship with Mark. Turns out, there was a whole secret world she kept hidden from me. Sometimes she'd meet Mark outside the house, in some secluded spots she thought I'd never find out about. I even found a few messages where she called him my favorite, and he responded with some cheesy line about how they'd keep this secret forever. It made me sick to read it all, but I couldn't look away. I needed to understand just how deep this went. One day, I decided to test her. I told her I'd planned a weekend away for us, a little getaway to reconnect. She looked surprised but played it off with her usual bitchy smirk. I could tell she was itching to get away from the house, from the mess she'd created. That night, I made sure she was out of the house, pretending to be at work, checking her phone logs, waiting for her to leave. Then I went into her phone, using the passcode I'd managed to figure out. I wanted to see if she'd slip up, if she'd make a mistake. And she didn't disappoint. I found a new string of messages with Mark talking about how they needed to be more careful, but also planning their next meetup. She was so careless in her texting, almost inviting me to catch her. That was my clue. This wasn't just some fling. She was actively planning to keep sneaking around. I felt this surge of anger and betrayal that I can't even put into words. It's like she enjoyed the secret, enjoyed the power she had over me. That thought made my blood boil. Once I had all this, I decided I needed to do something bold. I couldn't just sit on this information anymore. I started planning my moves carefully. I wanted to make her pay, make her regret everything she'd thrown away. I considered confronting her with everything, but I knew it would just turn into a fight, maybe even a separation there and then. That's not what I wanted. I wanted her to feel helpless, confused, realize she was caught. I wanted her to see the damage she'd done not just to me, but to us. So I devised a plan. I'd leave her a note, something cold and direct, right where she'd find it. I wanted her to realize I knew, and that I was tired of playing her game. I'd also set up a few hidden cameras, just in case she thought she could cover her tracks. I wanted the visual proof, the moment she'd realize she'd messed with the wrong guy. Deep down, I knew this was only the beginning, but I felt a strange sense of calm because for the first time, I was in control of the situation. That night I wrote the note. It was short, to the point. I know everything, the affair. The lies, the sneaking around. Don't bother denying it anymore, you're caught, and I'm done pretending you're innocent. I left it on the kitchen table where she'd see it first thing in the morning. I also activated the cameras in the living room and the hallway, setting them up to record her reaction when she came home. The waiting was torture. Every minute seemed like an hour. I kept replaying everything, the lies, the sneaking around, the betrayal, and I wondered how I could have missed all of it. How could she have been so good at hiding it? It's like she's been living this double life, and I was just too blind or too trusting to see it. I guess that's what hurts the most, knowing I was played for a fool and she didn't even care enough to hide her actions properly. When she finally came home, I was standing in the shadows, watching her read the note. Her face twisted into a sneer, and then she stormed into the room, furious. She started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, trying to control her. But I kept calm. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, every lie, every secret rendezvous. Her bitchy attitude only made me angrier. This wasn't just about her cheating. It was about her arrogance, her sense that she could do whatever she wanted and get away with it. What I didn't expect was her sudden burst of tears, fake tears, I'm sure, but it threw me off. She looked at me with this sad, betrayed look, and then she started calling me crazy, possessive, jealous. She played the victim so well I almost believed her, but I knew better. I saw right through the act. This was her way of deflecting, of trying to save herself from the fallout. Now I'm sitting here watching her spin her lies, feeling the weight of everything she's done. The revenge plan is still on my mind, and I know I need to act soon. I want her to see that she can't just cheat on me and walk away like she's the victim. That's what I'm aiming for, her to feel a fraction of the pain she's caused me. I don't think I'll ever fully trust her again, but at least I'll have my revenge. Because she deserves to know what it feels like to be betrayed by someone she thought she could manipulate. After her reaction that night, I knew I had to move quickly but carefully. Emily was good at turning things around, spinning stories, and making herself out to be the victim. That was her game. She relished the attention, the power of lying and twisting everything to her favor. But I also realized I couldn't just confront her again and expect an honest answer. No, if I wanted her to truly understand the extent of what I knew, I needed to get even more creative. So I started laying the groundwork for my plan. I already had the footage, the logs, and the secret texts. But I needed to make everything hit her at once, something she wouldn't be able to spin her way out of. I decided to create a situation where she'd be caught completely off guard, exposing her in front of her friends, her coworkers, maybe even her family. I wanted her to understand that trust was broken, and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I began by planting a few more pieces of evidence around the house, nothing obvious, just enough to make her panic. If she ever looked through my things, hidden photos, some fake messages I created that she could stumble upon. I also set up a secret email account, one that I used to send her subtle messages, things like, "I know everything," or "Don't think you're getting away with this." I wanted her to feel like her world was closing in, even if she didn't realize I was behind it all. Then I called her best friend Lisa, the one she'd been bragging to. I told Lisa that I knew about Emily's affair, that I had proof, and I was planning to confront her. Lisa seemed surprised but also a little nervous. I made sure to sound calm, like I wasn't angry, just disappointed. I told Lisa that I hoped she'd talk some sense into Emily, but I also warned her that this was serious. I gave her a little piece of the puzzle, enough that she'd start questioning her friend's motives. Meanwhile, I spent a lot of time researching how to make this public without outright destroying her career if I could get away with it. I thought about sending some anonymous emails to her boss, exposing her affair and her dishonesty. But then I realized that might be too risky and could backfire. She might get ahead of me or cover her tracks. Instead, I decided that I'd wait for the perfect moment when she'd let her guard down and then I'd strike hard. One afternoon, I got a call from Lisa. She said she'd talked to Emily, and Emily had admitted to the affair. She was furious, saying Emily had lied about her feelings, that she was tired of pretending everything was fine. I knew then that I had pushed her far enough. The moment had come to make her feel the consequences. I told Lisa to stay silent for now and that I'd handle everything from here. That night, while Emily was out at some girls' night, I set my plan into motion. I prepared an email crafted meticulously to send to her boss. I included all the evidence, screenshots of texts, logs from the security system, my hidden footage. I made sure it looked professional, cold, undeniable. I attached everything, then scheduled the email to go out the minute she was back home. I wanted that moment to hit her hard, to see her panic and realize she's been caught. In the act, when Emily finally arrived, she was in a good mood, probably thinking she had gotten away with everything. But then her phone buzzed. She looked at it casually, then her face changed instantly. The email had arrived. She stared at her screen, reading it, her expression flickering from confusion to horror. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That's when I knew I'd gotten her. She spun around, looking for someone to blame, her bitchy mask cracking just enough for me to see her real terror. She started yelling, calling me crazy, stalking, possessive. But I just stood there watching her flail, knowing that I'd finally made her feel what I'd felt for months, completely exposed, vulnerable, helpless. It was a beautiful moment, honestly, watching her realize she was no longer in control. That night she refused to sleep in the bedroom. She spent hours pacing, crying, trying to call her friends for support. I heard her whispering on the phone, probably trying to spin it to someone. Meanwhile, I kept my calm, knowing that the worst was yet to come for her. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness, like I was finally closing this chapter but also losing the woman I once trusted. Looking back, I realized that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity and forcing her to face the reality she'd tried to hide. She thought she could cheat, lie, and manipulate her way out of this. But I had the proof, and I was prepared to use it. Now, I just wait to see how she'll react when everything starts falling apart. Because the truth is, she's not the only one who's been hurt. This is just the beginning of her downfall. The fallout after that night was immediate and intense. Emily's world crumbled faster than she could spin her lies. The email I sent to her boss did its job. Within hours, her department was buzzing with rumors, and her reputation took a hit. The calls started coming in, her phone ringing off the hook with colleagues and friends asking questions she couldn't answer. I stayed silent, watching her spiral into panic, her bitchy facade finally cracking. She tried to pretend she was innocent, but it was obvious she was unraveling. She'd storm into the living room, yell at me, accuse me of stalking her, of trying to ruin her life. But I didn't care anymore. Every insult, every accusation just confirmed what I already knew: she was a liar, a manipulator, and a cheat. I didn't bother arguing with her much. I just sat back and watched her lose control, knowing I had already won the psychological game. Her tears and rage weren't enough to erase the fact that she'd been caught red-handed. I kept the evidence hidden, the footage, the logs, everything she'd tried to deny. I knew she'd try to lie her way out of it, but I was ready. I wanted her to see that this wasn't just a mistake. It was her choosing to betray everything we built. And I was done being the fool. Meanwhile, Lisa kept pressure on Emily, telling her she'd better come clean, face the consequences, or risk losing everything. That fueled Emily's panic even more. She started begging Lisa to help her, and I could see that her once bitchy confidence was shattered. The woman who used to think she was untouchable was now desperately trying to hold onto her reputation, her job, her friends. It was pathetic, and it was perfect. I also started making plans. For the next phase, I knew I couldn't keep everything bottled up forever. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done, so I started preparing for a big reveal, something that would make her regret her choices even more. Maybe I'd confront her directly, show her I had everything, or maybe I'd go public in a way that left her no escape. Either way, I wasn't done yet. I wanted her to understand that she could lie, cheat, manipulate, she could try to brush this off, but I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. At the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. For years, I'd been trying to protect this marriage, trying to fix things, but she kept pushing me away, sneaking around behind my back. Now I saw her for what she was, a selfish, manipulative woman who only cared about herself. It was a wake-up call for me. I realized I had been settling for less, and that I deserved better than someone who lied and cheated and treated me like an idiot. So I started drafting a plan to end this properly, in a way that would make her feel the loss, something that would hit her deep. I thought about showing her the footage again, the logs, the texts, everything she tried to hide. I wanted her to see her own face, the face of the woman who thought she could get away with everything. I wanted her to finally understand that her actions had consequences, that she couldn't just manipulate her way out of this. But even as I prepared, I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. Somewhere deep inside, I still cared for her, still hoped for some kind of resolution. Part of me wanted to believe I could fix this, that maybe she'd realize how much she screwed up and come back, but I knew better. She wasn't that person anymore. She'd shown her true colors, and I was just the fool who refused to see it all along. Now I'm just waiting for the next move. I've got my evidence, my plan, and the clarity of knowing the truth. It's a strange feeling, anger mixed with sadness, relief with heartbreak. I realize that, no matter what happens next, my life is never going to be the same. She's broken the trust, shattered the marriage, and I don't think I can ever look at her the same way again. All I can do now is prepare for whatever comes next, knowing that I finally have the power to take back control. And honestly, that feels like the only thing I've got left. The days that followed were a blur. Emily's life was unraveling before my eyes, and honestly, I didn't feel much remorse about it. Watching her try to salvage what little dignity she had left was almost satisfying. I kept my distance, letting her spin her lies, pretend everything was normal. But I knew better. I had all the cards now. The evidence was laid out like a smack in the face, proof she couldn't deny, no matter how much she wanted to. I saw her trying to save face in front of her friends, acting like the victim, blaming me for this crazy conspiracy. But I just stayed quiet, watching her, knowing that everything she was saying was hollow. Deep down, she knew she lost. She had played her game, lied her way through it, but she couldn't escape the truth I had now made undeniable. I finally decided to confront her one last time, not for her to deny anymore, but to let her face what she'd created. I told her I had no intention of pretending everything was fine anymore, that I knew the real person she was. She tried to argue, to call me controlling or jealous, but I cut her off. I told her I was done with her lies, that I'd been patient, that I'd given her every chance to come clean, but she chose to keep running from the truth. Her bitchy attitude was gone now. Instead, she looked defeated, exhausted, like she'd lost her battle with herself. That moment felt like a victory and a tragedy all at once. I realized I was finally free from the constant pain of her deception. I finally saw her as she truly was, a manipulative woman who thrived on lies and secrets. I told her I was leaving, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I couldn't keep living in a lie. I deserved honesty, respect, and someone who wouldn't sneak around behind my back. I packed my things while she sat there, quiet, tears streaming down her face. She knew she had pushed me too far, and she knew this was the end. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about finally reclaiming my dignity and peace. As I walked out the door, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I still loved her, I won't lie, but I also knew I couldn't trust her again. The betrayal had cut too deep, and no matter how much I wanted to fix it all, she'd made her choice. That choice was to lie, cheat, and manipulate, and I decided I deserved better than that. In the days that followed, I focused on healing myself. I started seeing a therapist, talking through the anger and heartbreak. I realized I'd been neglecting my own needs for too long, trying to fix her instead of fixing myself. The pain was real, but so was the hope. I knew I had a chance to rebuild, to find happiness away from her lies. Looking back, I learned a lot. I learned that sometimes you have to face the brutal truth to finally move on. That trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. And that revenge, while tempting in the moment, ultimately isn't about hurting her. It's about reclaiming your own strength. I'll never forget what she did, but I also let it define me. Now I'm moving forward. Alone, yes, but stronger. I hope everyone out there facing something similar realizes that honesty, no matter how painful, is always better in the long run. Don't settle for lies and betrayal. You deserve someone who will respect you, cherish you, and be honest, even if it's hard. Because in the end, that's what really matters.